A furious row has erupted in Poland where the new Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, latterly the great bogeyman of the Brexiteers, has put the state television channel into liquidation. The move forces a change of personnel at the top of the broadcaster, which Donald Tusk accuses of propagandising for the ousted Conservative Law and Justice Party. In a few minutes, I'll be speaking to the former Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, who is rallying opposition to what he says is a violation of the Polish constitution. Before that, let's get a bit of explanation from Professor Aleks Szczerbiak at the University of Sussex. Aleks Szczerbiak, welcome to GB News. Is it fair to say that the state broadcaster has been showing bias towards the outgoing Conservative Law and Justice Party?
Well, there were lots of critics of the way that Polish television has been operating by bodies like the OSCE, reporters like Borders. Its critics would point to polling data, which shows the lowest ever level of trust in Polish television during the news output during the last 8 years. And they would say that it hasn't met its statutory duty to provide balanced and impartial news coverage. However, Law and Justice, the outgoing ruling party, would respond to that by saying, well, first of all, they would say that all governments have attempted to some degree, at least, to influence Polish television's news and current affairs output, and that bias is not unusual. Their critics in turn would say, yes, but it's been much more blatant and aggressive over the last 8 years, at which point what Law and Justice would say is, yes, but then you need to look at the media landscape as a whole. And in a media landscape, which is where the privately owned media is overwhelmingly anti-law and justice, anti-conservative, sympathetic to the liberal left, then you need, in order to provide balance, you need, they argue, a powerful counter-narrative, a powerful counter-message. So, for example, they would say that before the 2015 election, all three major Polish evening news channels put out an anti-law and justice, anti-conservative message, whereas in the previous 8 years, they would argue that the effect of a more pro-law and justice state television has actually been to provide greater choice and greater balance within the Polish media landscape as a whole.
And what is it that Donald Tusk has actually chosen to do, the new Prime Minister, and what are the chances that it will be found unconstitutional?
Well, the problem is that there's no simple legislative route to changing the management of Polish television, which is obviously what he wanted to do. And it was a top priority of theirs in the election campaign, and they moved on it within days of coming to office. They wanted to get this done before Christmas. The problem is that the body that appoints the management of Polish television is a body called the National Media Council, whose term of office ends in 2028. And in order to shorten its term of office or to replace its membership, that would have required legislation. And there is currently a president in Poland, a law and justice aligned president, Andrzej Duda, who could veto that legislation. And the government doesn't have the 3/5 majority in Parliament that it needs to overturn that veto, which is why they've been trying to find get-arounds. And the get-around that they've been using is trying to use commercial law, the fact that Polish television is wholly state-owned and therefore the government is the only shareholder. And they've been trying to use that, first of all, just to simply replace the management board. And then subsequently, as you say, they've put it in insolvency and they've appointed liquidators with basically the same people that they would have got to appoint the same management as the management board. Now, the problem is, as you say, this leaves them open to the charge that they are doing exactly what they accused Law and Justice of doing in the last 8 years, which is trying to short-circuit the rule of law. And it's actually made some people, even among their own supporters, who were also very, very critical of Law and Justice, very uneasy. So obviously Law and Justice is really criticising them for this. As you say, they're organising a demonstration. But there are also people, not all of them, but some people who criticise Law and Justice and are supporters of the new government, who are also very uneasy about the route that this current government has chosen.
Aleks, thank you very much indeed for explaining all of that for us. And we can now speak to Mateusz Morawiecki, who was until last month the Prime Minister of Poland. Mateusz Morawiecki, welcome to GB News. Tell me your reaction to the actions of Donald Tusk with regard to the national broadcasting channel.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Well, first of all, in Poland, there is a radical violation of the law, as well as. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
There is a radical violation of the law, as well as violent aggression against public media. And all governments could do this with applying appropriate parliamentary proceedings. There is a very clear legislative path through which Donald Tusk and his new government could have done this. Instead of this, they have chosen to use force, to use police, to liquidate public media. And they have actually deprived people, they have denied access to media channel, to news channel for millions of people. Last time when things like this happened, it was during the martial law in 1981. I remember this time very well, and only 42 years later, it happened again. So lots of people are very much surprised with this aggressive stance, aggressive violation of law by Donald Tusk.
Mateusz, people in this country are certainly very surprised. I mean, if we saw a government, closing down the BBC, we would be astonished. Just tell me, what does this tell us about the state of institutions in Poland? What does it tell us about the state of democracy in Poland? You have now been a member of the European Union for a good long time. Some of these scenes are surprising us and dismaying us very much.
When I was Prime Minister, every day Poles could watch at least 3 TV channels, and they could form their opinion based on 3 different TV channels. You need to know that most of the private media in Poland are actually biased towards liberal left part of the political scene, and this is euphemistically said. And also before 2015, public television was under Tusk government, very much biased as well. So the fact of the matter was that the public media presented a different point of view, and this is what democracy is about. Right now, the new government, which is formed by several parties, predominantly leftist and liberal parties, is trying to monopolize media altogether, because including the public media into the same pot of media as they have been presenting last couple of years, is really depriving people of different points of view. And this is why many people in Poland are very much against it, are very much worried about what is going on in the sphere of media.
According to opinion polls, a majority of the population was concerned about the bias towards your party that was observed in the state broadcasting channel. I just wonder, should there not be an assumption that the state broadcaster is neutral and balanced? We try to do this in this country. Of course, it's a subject of constant debate as to whether the BBC achieves that. But at least it is understood that the objective of the state broadcaster is to be balanced. Can that not be achieved in Poland?
The word balanced is critically important, Michael. This is why in the previous 8 years, the public television was presenting a different point of view than 70 or 80% of the media